My name's Sarah Lefebvre. I am the editor of Ludagogy magazine, as well as being a games-based learning professional as well. And it's Ludagogy that is hosting this session. One of the reasons for hosting these sessions is we all need a bit more play in our lives, but one of the missions of Ludagogy is to raise the profile of games-based learning. So I like to do these sessions regularly, showcasing what people are doing in the field. So I'd like to welcome along Andy Yeoman. I'll probably ask people to introduce themselves a little bit more in case I forget anything, but Andy Yeoman is the co-founder of Focus Games, who have co-created this particular game, the pizza game, along with Jonathan Grellier and Ed Jepson, who are the experts, the subject matter experts behind the game, so the continuous improvement experts. So I don't know if you guys want to say anything else that I've missed out that's going to be useful.
It was a beautiful introduction. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, so Ed and I have worked together for a number of years across a few different organisations, predominantly in healthcare improvement. So we support individuals, teams, and services to improve what they're doing, and a lot of that is about supporting people's development as improvers, so coaching and training people, which is part of the story behind the pizza game. So I don't know, Ed or Andy, if you want to add anything yourselves.
I think you've done a good job there, Jonathan. I was just going to bring up the experience, most of the experience of this is born out of healthcare, NHS. But prior to working in NHS, I worked across multiple different industries. And I only mention that because, Eileen, you talked about pharmaceuticals, and that was my kind of direct experience before working in the NHS. I did some management consultancy, worked across many different pharmaceutical industries, building improvement capability, and really saw the crossover of, we've designed this for improvement capability. We talk healthcare at the moment, but I think it crosses back. My origins were in engineering, in defence and manufacturing, and I can see doing the same thing over there. The same thinking spans across everywhere. So yeah, I think I just wanted to mention that because pharmaceuticals have been in there as well. So we may have a conversation about that later.
I never knew that, Ed. I also have a management consulting background in life sciences and pharma, so we were probably sitting in the same airport lounges at the same time.
Highly likely, yeah.
Excellent. So I think I will just, having introduced you, I shall just let you take it away. You all have, you, Andy, Jonathan and Ed have co-host powers. So if you have any slides to share or any sort of screens you want to share, then please go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. So I think I'll kick things off. The plan generally is I'll give a little bit of background to describe what the game is and why we came up with it, and then Ed's going to take us through the structure of the session, and then we will play the pizza game, and I think it will be really interesting to see what everybody makes of that. So I think what I'll do, I'm not actually going to, I did have some slides. I think I won't use those. I will actually just I will share my web browser screen, because what that allows me to do is to show you the web page that the pizza game is based on. If I just check I've got the right one, so I will show that one. Now, fingers crossed, if you give me a thumbs up, am I showing you a web browser with the pizza game on it? I am. Fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted to do. So this is how you find the pizza game. It's at thepizzagame.com. And pretty much this website, actually, I realized contains all the information that I was going to show in a PowerPoint. So it's much easier to do it like this. I'll just kind of spin through the web page as we talk. As we mentioned in the introductions, Ed and I have worked with improvers in healthcare and in other industries for many years. Ed and I worked together in the National Health Service in the UK, and that work has really been about training and coaching people to make improvements to processes, services, and organisations. And for those people who aren't familiar with that type of work, it has both technical and relational elements. So it's about knowledge, but it's also about skills and working with groups of people. So fundamentally, in terms of learning, it's about practice. It's about experiential learning. It's about people becoming improvers themselves individually as well as part of a team. And we found over the years that games and simulations play a really important role in developing improvers, in engaging people in effective learning programs around improvement. And the games that create those kind of learning environments that are safe, but they still contain elements of jeopardy, of competition, and a sense of purpose, seem to really work well, because they, and alongside engaging people in challenges that are relatable and relevant to their working lives. And we've used a number of face-to-face games and simulations over the years that we found quite reliably create those conditions for learners. However, during the COVID pandemic, we were faced with the challenge of trying to migrate those games and simulations over to a virtual setting, and that proved to be a pretty difficult thing to do. They don't directly translate. We found that there wasn't really much out there that met our needs in terms of digital replacements for those games. So that was when we set about the process of identifying, first of all, what it was about those face-to-face games that was so effective, and then creating an idea for a virtual game that could reproduce those elements for groups of learners on a Zoom call just like this, or an MS Teams call or something else. And it was that point where we partnered with Andy and the team at Focus Games, and they've helped us kind of turn that vision into a reality with the pizza game. Now, whoops, let me just bring that screen back to you if I just scroll down a little bit. So, wait, there we go. Sorry, just having a slight technical hitch with my screen sharing there. Are you still seeing the web page? Brilliant. So the challenge was, for us, was to create a virtual game where people could learn as a team. A lot of the games that we were coming across where people were facing the same challenge as us were attempting to do that, but kind of didn't seem to quite manage it. They were either too knowledge-based and not really engaging enough, or they were fun, but they were a bit frivolous and there weren't really enough genuine learning opportunities in there. And we wanted something that would engage every player actively. A lot of the things that we were seeing other people doing maybe had one person playing a game and others watching. So the concept that we came up with was to have a game that actually consisted of 5 mini games that together constituted the stages in a process. And to succeed, the idea was that all players had to work effectively individually, but they also had to understand their overall system, and they had to collaborate to get a winning score. So these sorts of challenges really relevant in healthcare and relevant in all sorts of other industries as well. And each game then consists of 5 people playing one of the mini games, and then a host or a facilitator who sets up the game and guides the group through making improvements between each play. So you can scroll down the website there and see a little bit more information about how the game works. Now, we didn't want to make this a healthcare scenario, despite the fact that we are working in healthcare. And partly that was because we didn't want players to get distracted by the content. So, you know, we didn't want to create an operating theatre game or an emergency department game and then have the players actually arguing about the detail of whether or not it effectively simulated those environments. What we want people to be focused on is the process, the experience of actually making improvement. So we chose the pizza delivery business. We thought that was something that was pretty relatable for people. And we also thought that with the way we structured the game, it was still going to be a good learning experience. People were still going to be able to grasp what was going on and relate that to their work, whatever industry they're working in. Probably the only industry this might not work so well for would be the pizza delivery business, because I suspect they might have a thing or two to say about how realistic the simulation is. But you can see on the screen there, The game actually works by players taking up 5 different activities in making a pizza, taking orders, mixing and rolling the dough, applying the toppings, baking the pizza, and then cutting and boxing the pizza for delivery. And what I'm going to do now is hand over to Ed, who is going to walk us through actually how each of those mini games work, so that you can have a little look at that before you play. And I think, Andy, you're going to screen share those videos for us so that we can see them. And I'll just get back into Zoom again. I will stop sharing my screen.
Excellent. Yeah, so thanks, Jonathan. As Jonathan said, it's based around people logging in as separate players of each of 5 mini games, but it's all taking part in a process. And we thought for this session today, we talked about experiential learning, but what better way than actually we're going to run a couple of sessions of this and kind of go through some of the conversation that we would have with improvers as we go through it. So we'll have some real learning. But one of the things that we thought we would do first is, on the website, there are the separate videos for each of the different game elements, and we'll run through those to give you an idea of the activity that takes place. It's hopefully quite intuitive, and you'll pick it up as you go, but we know with everything, having a bit of a guide or a bit of early training is really important. So we'll run through, and these videos run quite quickly, but you'll get an essence of all of the games that we run through. So I think this is taking orders. And if we play this, how to take orders. So effectively, you see a screen, there's a telephone, it's imagery coming up. We see an order coming up on the left-hand side. And what our task is to tick off on our order sheet the order that's come in. So we're finding all of the ingredients, the size of the pizza, we're clicking it, we're saying done. Each of the icons that come up, we have a green icon, the phone is there, the order's coming in, we can click on the green one, we've done it in time. If we see orange icons come up, that's an order that's come in, that's been waiting a little while. It will then turn red, and then if we don't answer it after it's gone to red, we've effectively missed that order, and we'll see some of that scoring come through in the end. So the next stage then is making dough. So somebody's on a dough station, and effectively what we have to do here, we see the order come in on the top left. We see that this is a small pizza. We can close that. I'm going to select my small piece of dough. I have to mix that. It automatically, well, you click and you mix 2 times for small dough. I then have to move on to my rolling station. I can see on the bottom, I've got a small piece of dough. I click on that. I click on the roll, and effectively that's moving the rolling pin, and I'm rolling it the number of times to get me into that middle of the green, or the bar at the side, making sure it's green. And then I have my small pizza dough base. I click on my order. I can submit that because I've got the piece of dough to submit with it. So this is about mixing the right sizes pieces of dough and then rolling them out to the right size, small, medium, or large. Once we have that order moves on to a topping station. We will see on the topping station, again, top left are the orders. I can click on one of those orders and I'll see what dough size I need. So it's a medium-sized pizza. I've got the medium-sized dough. I now move across and I need to select the right toppings. Generally, we've got sauces at the top and then a mixture of toppings as we go down. Once I've put all the correct toppings on, I click on that order and I could submit because I've built that particular order. I can pick any of those pizzas in turn, and you can see from the other stages, the orders will keep on lining up, requiring you to add the correct toppings and then submit and move on. Once I've moved on, they're moving on to a cooking stage. And what I'll see here is I see my orders on the top left again. I can click on that order, but I see the pizzas move across into this bottom left area. I'm going to click on my pizza, that puts it into the oven. And the idea here is to cook them perfectly. So I want to click on that pizza and move it off again when we've got into that green section of the bar. I can put multiple pizzas on at one time, but the trick is to put them in, click on them and move them out. I have to click on the order, click on the pizza, and then they're going in the oven and I'm pulling them off. If they go over, they get burnt. we can, if they get properly burnt, they become a burnt pizza, and we don't see that anymore. But we can move slightly burnt pizzas on, and we'll get different scores associated to how well our cooking is going. So once we've cooked it, we move on to a delivery stage. So whoever's running a delivery game will see pizzas coming in bottom left, orders coming in at the top. I select my pizza. I have to cut it now. So I select the cutter. It's got a demonstration of what we have to do, but effectively we move the mouse, click on the pizza at the side, extend that bar over, cut it 3 times. We're not really worried how accurate the cutting is. Once it's cut, we can move that over, we move it into the box, select the right order, and select done, and that will ship out to the customer. We can associate the wrong pizzas with the wrong order cards there, and obviously that will end up in an unhappy customer and a failed delivery, but we'll explain that more as we go through. So that obviously hopefully gives you a sense of each of the different games and the activities that people are doing. And we're moving those pizzas on throughout the different stages. I think Jonathan has been creating a game in the background, and that I think the 5 of us will all take a particular position. And what we're going to try and do, if everybody's happy with this, is Jonathan will show us the hosting and logging in. We'll talk us through logging into the game. But when we're logged in, we'll select a particular, well, select a slice is what we call it, select that particular game that we want to run. And as we go through, we'll ask each of you to share your screen and kind of see how you're doing, and maybe have just a quick discussion. We're going to run a longer game to start with, but we'll ask each of you in turn to put your screen up. We can see what's going on and perhaps have a bit of a discussion around that. So with that, I'll hand over to Jonathan.
Thank you, Ed. Can you see me okay? I have been getting slightly, and hear me okay. I'm getting slightly choppy audio my end.
Yeah, no, we can see and hear you. Good.
That's not happening. All right, excellent. Okay, so I have set up our first game, and as we mentioned earlier, there's a perfect number of us on here to play it. So I will be host for this session. I've just dropped the link into the chat bar. So Andy, Sarah, Raymond, Eileen and Ed, if you all click on your link, that should take you to the game screen where you will get the option to join a game. The other option on there is as a host, and that's what I've already done to set up a game. So a nice and simple setup process, hopefully. The game that we're going to play is called R1, lowercase r, number 1. The password for the game is exactly the same. And then you pop your name into the box where it asks your name. And maybe, Ray, I'll ask you to share your screen at this point, if you don't mind, and we can see what's happening on your screen then as a player. Because, Ray, I'm going to ask you to be player 1, if that's okay. So you will take on the order taking, and we'll see in a minute what that looks like. Fantastic. So you can see that what Ray's got here is he's got the options to pick a slice, and he's now joined the game and should be able to see that name come up there.
I just managed to make everybody co-host just in time.
Ah, perfect. Thank you. Apologies, I forgot that might be in it. It might be you. So Eileen, you can do exactly the same thing as Ray, but if you choose the second slice of the pizza, which is the dough making session, just enter your name as a player onto that screen. I think, Ray, you might have missed that step, which is why we're seeing a blank for you there.
Okay.
Player 3, Sarah, if you would like to be player 3 and take the toppings stage.
Yeah.
Andy, I'll suggest you bake the pizzas, and Ed, I'll give you the unenviable task of cutting and boxing the pizzas at the end.
I was hoping I wouldn't get that. That looks like the one that's got the option for most.
Excellent. So, oops, we might have just lost you there, Ray. You might have to come in again. There you go. Yep. Try again. There we go. Join again. Perfect. R1 and R1. And if you just put Ray under your name, brilliant. You should be able to pick the final slice. Excellent. Okay, so I will, in just a second, I will start the game. A quick tip is that the game has music.
Yes.
And this is great, but if everybody's music is playing on the Zoom call, it gets a bit chaotic. So when we start, Ray, we'll give you a bit of a tip as to how you can switch that off and everybody else can copy that. But in a moment, I will click begin and we will see the orders start to pile up for Ray. And then Eileen, Sarah, Andy and Ed, you will start to receive your orders as they progress through the process. And I guess the idea of this is that we can converse as a team whilst this is happening. We won't be able to see all of the screens. We'll see Ray's, but after a while, we'll swap over and we'll see what's happening for Eileen and then through Sarah, Andy and Ed. Okay, so fingers crossed. I'm going to begin the game at this point and you should hear some music. You can click on the little menu at the top and turn sound. Oh, Ray's very quick with this. He's straight in there. Okay, so click on your orders, Ray, and you should see the order come up on the left-hand side. And we can see Ray's doing a fine job of taking this first order for a small pizza. And as Ed mentioned, if you're not quick on that order there, the calls coming in can turn red and it gets a little bit stressful. Now, whilst Ray's doing this, I suspect Eileen now has some orders coming through to her and she will be mixing and rolling the dough for us. Now, this first round, I may have only started a 5-minute one actually, but we'll see how we go. Eileen, shall we let you take over screen sharing at this point and we will see what's happening for you?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time figuring out how I start to roll. So
okay, fantastic. So you've rolled one, you can, so if you close that menu there, and then if you go click on the back button in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, you'll have the opportunity to roll some small dough there. So if you click on that small dough button, whoops.
Right. No.
So close that one and click on small dough and then mix a couple of times. And then if you click on next,
or should I do some more?
Corner down to next. Okay. That's it. And now you can select your small dough from the inventory at the bottom.
Oh, at the bottom.
Yep.
Not up here, but at the bottom.
No,
oh, got
down
it.
The bottom there.
Now I can
roll. And then
roll.
you can roll that out to the right size. And then as soon as you're ready, you can click done.
Okay.
And now back to that order and you can submit that order for the next round. So just back up to the ticket at the top.
Right here. Submit.
Small dough and click on submit. Excellent. So that will have gone through to Sarah now. So Sarah, you will now be working on the toppings for that small pizza that's come through to you. Excellent. So we're through to Sarah's screen share. You can just click on back to game there if your menu is still showing. Fantastic. So you've got your small order in and you can click on that to find out what the toppings are that's been ordered. So we've got a spicy small pizza with spicy sauce and onions. Okay, absolutely, Ray. Prawns on a pizza. Will you have some interesting combinations come through on this? It has to be said. Okay, Sarah, so you can select your pizza down at the bottom there and you can then begin to apply the toppings if you can remember them from the order ticket. So of course, while all this is happening, poor Andy and Ed are idle workers at this point in our process, and order complete to submit that, Sarah, is all you need to do once you've got the toppings on. Not the world's most interesting pizza, that one. Onions and spicy sauce. Fantastic. So that means Andy should now have at least one pizza that's come through to his point in the order process. And we'll get to see Andy's baking skills at this point. How are you doing, Ray, by the way? Are they coming in thick and fast at that first?
Yeah, coming right along.
Excellent.
So if the order I can see has a tick, then I'm up to date. Is that right?
That's right. So Eileen, you may not be getting them through to Sarah if she has no more orders at the top of her screen.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Excellent. So Andy, if you have a pizza to bake, would you like to share your screen? And
yeah. Sorry, I forgot it was Zoom, and I didn't. I thought I was sharing my screen, but I wasn't.
I think it's already cooked because I have it in the delivery.
It's absolutely perfect as well, Ed. I don't think you'll see a finer pizza.
Oh, got a large one arrived. So I've got large.
Should we have a look at
pepperoni.
the delivery screen, Jonathan? I can. You're on mute, Jonathan, but I will
see what's happening in game 5. Absolutely, Ed, you can share your screen. So obviously, you're all working away now. We have pizzas in the process, and I started this as a long round. Rounds can be 5 or 10 minutes long. We did a long round for this while people get used to the game. So we can see that Ed's order.
Yeah. So look at that. That's fine. I have the spicy sauce and onion. I'm going to put that up. I click on this. It shows me what I need to do. This is the trickiest stage at the moment. So I have to cut the pizza. So I'm going to click outside. And do one cut. And then click outside. Do another cut. And then let's bring one up. Let's bring one down to make that
relatively evenly sliced.
Yeah, I think that looks okay, doesn't it? I put that in the box. I'm quite lucky at the moment. I only have one. I put that pizza and I know that this is the right order. I'm going to attach the right order, hit done, and ship.
Whoa!
Fantastic. So well done, team. We have at least one pizza through the process at this point.
I've just sent off a naked pizza. I do apologise.
Oh, well, there we go.
It happens.
Mistakes happen. So we can see Andy's now baking. I have no idea what's on that pizza. It looks like green pesto, prawns and peppers.
It's pesto, black olives, pepperoni and ham.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
And
the next one's going to be much more boring because it's just going to be dough.
So what Andy had to do there was make sure that pizza comes off the little pizza cooking conveyor belt at exactly the right moment so that it doesn't get under or overcooked. So it's a long running round, this one. We've got 3 minutes left as it's running at the minute. But what I will show you while that's happening, just for the purposes of the video, is that as a facilitator, I have a slightly different view to everyone else. You'll all still be busy processing pizzas, hopefully. But you'll see that on my screen, I can see the live scoreboard for the team. So I can see how they're doing, how many calls they've taken, how many of those orders have been correctly taken, how many orders they've got wrong. Excellent performance, Ray, so far on the order taking station. Then we see the dough station, the number of orders, the dough that's been made, and how much waste there is if we have dough that hasn't been forwarded onto toppings. And we can see now that pizzas are coming through the process. So we have now got 2 orders shipped and 2 correct. And what the scoreboard will allow us to do once the round is finished is to have quite an interesting conversation about where we think there might be opportunities for improvement in our process. So how are we doing? How are we doing at topping station?
I'm all right now, apart from that one terrible naked pizza that went out.
Excellent.
It's tricky to remember to press the cross rather than order complete. I've nearly done it a couple of times. Yes,
there's a few steps in some of these, so it can be awkward to get it exactly.
Got another one.
Okay, so just over a minute left. We'll see if we can get a few more. We've got 3 pizzas so far shipped and correct, but we do seem to have a little bit of a bottleneck at some points in the process here.
That probably is me. I had to figure out the process of going back and forth between the screens because there's 2 screens and I wasn't getting it right.
There's quite a lot to do at the dough station, isn't there?
Yeah.
When the orders are coming through. I think what tends to happen in this first round is that once the person on the order taking station has got the hang of things, they start flying through quite fast.
Oh, gee
to
whiz.
the rolling station. Yeah. It looks like Ray's chilling out now. He's sent all his orders through.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be updating. I mean, I've had like 3 come in the time that you started sharing your screen, but it doesn't seem to be updating on your end.
Ah, okay, that's interesting. So we might have a little bit of a delay there. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop sharing that scoring. Actually, no, I won't. I'll leave that on there because what you'll see is that in a moment, we've got just 20 seconds left in the round. See if you can get any more pizzas through in that time. And it's certainly the scoreboard that I'm showing should update at that point. Okay, here we go. The countdown as we go through the last 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's the game finished. So there we go. Calculating the scores. Let's see how we did. Okay, fantastic. So, whoops. My PC is telling me it has low system resources. But
I have a score of 0.
Okay,
oh, no, that's not fair.
Now there are a few known issues with the scoring process, but what I will do at this point is I will hand over to Ed to kind of do a little debrief with us and talk us through the improvement opportunities before we play a second round. So Ed, over to you. Shall I leave this screen for you?
Yeah, leave it up. I won't focus on this too much. But it was really good that you showed that there, Jonathan, because as the host and facilitator of this, you see this screen and you can see what's happening going through. And at the end, we would have a discussion of how that was as a process and how each of the individual games happened, but how it worked for all of us in a process overall. And we can look at this scoring screen and see what was going on and see order taking, great, lots of orders coming in, lots of that completed and completed correctly. Dose station, lots of work. We know that dose station is a very busy station. It's the one that has a dual activity. As you get through, we kind of expect that more time in there, you get experience and learn and see what's happening. It's really tough for the first round, but it is the one that's really busy. There was lots of dough made, but actually there was not all of it was used. So we have a bit of waste going on in that station. That's very normal. It's kind of set up to do that. We can see in the toppings. So the toppings, you see each of these, I have the total orders coming in. That isn't the total that's come through to you. That we can see orders made 7, 6 correct, 1 was waste. Let's not worry about the overall score at the moment, but we're just looking at numbers coming through and we can see that perhaps some of these stations might be a bit of what we would call a bottleneck, a bit of things that are going on, they take a bit longer. But we would generally have a discussion now of how that was for you and have a bit of feedback. So why don't we do that? We've got a few minutes. It'd be good to get a bit of feedback on each of the stations, what you thought. And then ultimately we'll get to let's make a change in the next one. And I'll show you, I'll set up and host the follow-on game, but we have some opportunities to make some improvements. We may railroad this discussion a little bit, but it'd be good to get some feedback of how it was for you, Ray, Eileen and Sarah, just to see what you thought. And then we can think, is there any way that if we did it again, some of the improvements that you might want to make if this was a real situation? So should we start in order? Should we go through order taking? And Ray, just get a bit of feedback, how that was for you.
Sure. I mean, it was on the plus side, the system is pretty intuitive. It certainly helped that the order came through the same way every time, so it was very easy to task orient. The most challenging thing is that the little tick boxes are not in alphabetical order. So it is, you're doing like some hunting. So certainly if I had the opportunity to do some rearrangements, I would probably do like, all the meats in one column or one row and then alphabetical like that, and then others. So I can definitely already kind of see the opportunities for improvement.
That's great. Yeah, it kind of, again, it leads you into that kind of thinking that we've got some of those ideas And that's really good to hear. Shall we, on the dough station, Eileen, how was that?
Yeah, so what I struggled with, because I don't play many games like this, was figuring out when to click next and when to click back.
Sure.
So it wasn't clear to me at first what I clicked on before I went to the next screen, and then the rolling took a while. But that's part of the learning, I think. I wouldn't change that. I think that's part of the learning. And I thought that was good. And then once I got that, then I kind of understood. But from here, I didn't realize that I had extra dough made. So I kept going back thinking that I had to keep making more. So I didn't, again, connect it to those orders that were at the top. And I had some extras here that I could have submitted. So I didn't figure that out. But again, I don't think that was a problem with the game. I think that was a problem with me. Don't ask me to make any pizzas for you. But I thought that was, I felt at a certain point, I felt like I had mastered it, or at least well enough to know when to click where. Obviously not well enough, but there was that feeling of, okay, I think I have this now. I know when to stir, and then once it's stirred, then go to the next one and roll it out. And roll out takes a little while because it, does that little process. But I thought it was interesting. I don't know that I would change anything here.
Okay. We know that experience counts for a lot, and we do see the next stage when we're experienced in doing this. We will see a bit of a difference. Let's quickly go on to toppings. And Sarah, what you thought with putting the toppings on?
Yeah, I got really panicky, which is when the accident happened that I pressed submit order instead of pressing the cross to go back. I think the most challenging thing for me is the fact that you can't see you can't see the list of what you've got, the toppings you've got to put on and put the toppings on at the same time. So you have to close down the little slip before you can actually get to the interface that allows you to put the toppings on. So I had a great deal of difficulty in remembering which toppings I needed to put on. So if this was, my real pizza station, that would be the thing that I would change. I would have some way of being able to have both of those things visible to me at the same time, so I could actually sort of just look across rather than having to, what felt like, I guess, having to open a drawer or something to look at the order.
Absolutely. And what we're talking about here, we often see, I go back to our healthcare situation, but a lot of these issues happen in the other processes that we do. So we've related to, if we get under pressure, we can start making mistakes. And those are real things that happen. We're just doing it in the game environment here. Quite often in some of the work and processes that we do, we're expected to memorize things because we don't have that information available to us. So we can kind of map on those thoughts and think, as you say, you're going into a drawer to find some information, but maybe there's a different way of doing that and having that available to you. So that's the whole idea of this, is to try and experience some of those things we see in the other processes that we do, but in this game environment. And it's really good to hear that they're kind of coming out and you're seeing those. We'll carry on the discussion and go to the oven station, which hopefully is one of the easier ones. But Andy, you've run that several times.
Yeah, I got away easily, and I was cheating as well because I've got a little assistant. So no, I mean, it was perfectly fine for me. I was being able to cook one pizza at a time. There was no pressure.
And equally on the delivery station, the delivery stations are a little fiddly sometimes in doing those cuts across the pizza. When you've got a lot of time, it works really well. But if I had lots of orders coming in, I would have started a little bit panicking, and things don't work very well. And if you've got lots of order tickets, it's very easy to put a pizza in a box, forget which one it was, and put the wrong order label on it. And then all the hard work that everybody's done is effectively dismissed. So we've got to have a bit of a conversation now and think about a change that we could make. I've got a suggestion. We've got lots of ideas of making things simpler. We can reorder some things, and we're thinking about building in, a bit more in terms of reorder. But one of the things that we see in lots of processes that we do is this idea of unwarranted variation, and the variation causing us problems, making us do different things. So I wonder if we think, is there something that we could simplify and reduce that variation that's going through? Kind of deliberately leading us through one of the easiest things that we can do is could decide, actually, we don't want to do small, medium and large pizzas. If we were to just have one size, do we think that would make it easier for us working through?
I mean, it would certainly be easier for us, but it seems to me that there's a customer problem there. If we only offer one size, do people want to buy what we're selling?
That's very true. That's very true. What would be a good answer to that? I'd say maybe we've done some market research and worked out that actually most of our sales are on a particular pizza size. If that were true, that would lead us into that. We don't have that. We may be making an assumption there, but it might be worth something. A lot of this we would run as what we call just a test of change and see if we have that idea, does that make us suitably well more efficient at running it to actually try and adopt that? It could be something we try. I will set up and host and we can look at some of the options we have. Maybe we'll do it that way.
I have an idea though, because there were two parts to the dough making thing. If you separated that into two different people, I think that would help, because part of the confusion was going back and forth. And if it was separated into two individuals doing that, which would make it 6 instead of 5.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's not.
That's a really good idea.
But it would speed it up a bit, because being at the dough station, you're kind of on the front end. And so you're holding up everybody else. The potential to hold up everybody else is higher than like if you were the delivery station. So I'm affecting 1, 2, 3 people behind, 3 functions behind me.
It's a critical stage, absolutely. I'm just thinking, Jonathan, given the time, I think we're going to do one more round, aren't we? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen in hosting. I will just get this set up and then I'll show you.
Yeah, just you're setting that up, Ed. I mean, it's interesting. We've had we're in some other play testing we've done. We've had some really similar suggestions come in, Eileen, about being able to redistribute tasks. It's not something we can do in the functionality of the game at the moment. It is something we would love to introduce, the ability as well, perhaps to switch between stations during play, to redistribute your resources over time, because obviously what happens is that sometimes bottlenecks appear and then you want to put maybe 2 people on one station at the beginning of the process, which is another really interesting idea. What we do, I guess, know, and this is probably creeping a bit into continuous improvement territory rather than game playing territory, but a variation and potentially unwarranted variation. And Ray made a good point that the variation of pizza size might not be unwarranted. It might be exactly what the customer wants, but that's often a cause of these bottlenecks, where we see a queue building in the game. In this case, as you quite rightly said, we've got a bit of a queue building at the dough making stage. So what we would often ask teams in a situation like that, if it was a queue in a hospital or in a manufacturing setting or a pharmaceutical industry, is, is there something we can do to reduce the complexity at that step? Can we simplify things? What can we do to take out any waste that might be manifesting at that stage of the process? And that's where we've built in some functions to the settings of the game, that if the team come up with certain ideas, we can actually change some of the mechanics behind the scene. Obviously, there's also lots of things that you could decide to do as a team in the way you communicate as well, because this is a team game. We were relatively talkative in that first round, but sometimes when we've played, players have barely spoken until you draw their attention to that, and then they start to get curious about the other parts of the system, which again, for us in healthcare, is absolutely a story of what happens in real life, where one part of the system thinks they're doing really well, another part also does, but actually they're not talking to each other. So Ed's going to show us now how to set up a new game with some slightly different settings based on some of these things that we can change. And in fact, Ed, what we might want to do, and this is a bit naughty because we would usually suggest actually only changing one thing at a time if you're going to do a test of change. But Ray also talked about, I think, the order of the toppings on the pizza, and that's something else that if we want to.
Absolutely, yeah. I was thinking we could do that. So in the hosting, this is going to be R2 for round 2. So I put that in as the name of the game in the password. I have a game time, and I think we'll run another 10-minute one, Jonathan. I think we'll do that again because then we can have a good chance to. Well, we could go for a shorter one actually. Let's do the shorter one.
We'll do a 5-minute one. We challenge people a little bit.
Yeah, get the pace up. And what I have now is an admin function. So if I click on this, it's really good at Ray that you mentioned the making everything alphabetical, because we can do that. What we have is the pizza size, and all the options are currently switched on. So we could decide, maybe we had that bit of research that said actually most of our customers are ordering a medium, so we want this particular process to be doing mediums. We could reduce that. On the sources, we could say, well, actually, we only have a less selection of those. We don't get orders for the other one, so it tidies up our screen. On the toppings, again, we could decide that we're making certain types of pizza and not have some of those toppings. And we can, once we get really working on this and it works really well, we can speed up the orders coming in, and we can speed up the speed of baking. I'd probably suggest that we leave the speed as it is at the moment, but what do we think? I can certainly make these an alphabetical list for the sources and an alphabetical list for all the toppings. Do we want to have a go at reducing the range of pizza sizes that we offer?
I would say just drop it to medium and large.
Yeah, so we can take off our small.
Yeah.
No. Small takes
small.
less time to make.
Yeah.
Oh, good thinking.
That's very good. Yeah.
And in the interest of the health of the population, maybe we should drop the large one there.
Yeah. I'd say drop the large one.
There's more mixing with the large. Absolutely. Well spotted.
Mixing and rolling.
Yeah. So we'll leave the smaller ones on. There's less work involved in those.
Could I just ask about the game ID? Did you say R2?
Yes.
Because I've tried R2 with a small R and a large R, and it's on both occasions it's saying it's the wrong thing.
Yes, we won't.
I haven't created it just yet.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Once I've dialed in these changes, I will hit launch the game, and then you'll be able to log in. Sorry, I should have made that clear.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just hosting and setting it up, and then once it's set up, we'll launch it, and it'll be live and ready.
I have no patience.
Well, get lots of pizzas through. So Ray, it's really down. The major part now is the range of toppings, and again, this will affect the order taking stage because it will limit down the options if we want to limit the options and make it clearer. And at topping stage, it obviously limits down the number of toppings that we're applying and perhaps reordering them. So shall I put them into alphabetical order for both?
Or what has research shown is ordered most often?
So everything is now in alphabetical order. Do we want to remove any of those options?
Anchovies, prawns, and pineapple should all go away.
Oh yeah, pineapple should go. Anchovies should probably go.
No, anchovies are lovely.
Wonderful.
I mean, I didn't notice any orders for jalapeno.
So we can take off a jalapeno and prawns.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking you were sort of saying it's my games designer's head on rather than my pizza making head, but you were saying that, oh well, market research has done whatever, but from a gameplay perspective, if people were actually noticing that there were no large pizzas being ordered or there weren't no anchovies being ordered, that would be,
totally in favour of prawns and anchovies coming off the pizza.
If you wanted to really get serious about the improvement, you might even say, well, if we've got, if you had a bigger group, you could have somebody tracking and writing down those orders and giving you the data at the end and saying, well, actually this round, 60% of our pizzas were large or medium, exactly as we would do in a real life situation. So yeah.
we could have an audit. So I've dialed in those changes. That remains. All I do now is close this. And if I start the game, the room is created. I will drop out of sharing now and let everybody dial in.
Are we taking the same stations, Ed?
I think we should, yeah. We'll use that experience we gained in the first round.
Oh boy.
Ed, would you like me to pick up your pizza cutting this time?
Yes, please, Jonathan, if you could.
And then you can be the facilitator this round.
Yes. Are you in, Jonathan? It's not showing you up on.
There we go.
Right, okay. So again, I'll hit begin and we can go and turn the sound off if we like, because we get multiple sounds. But so it's a shorter round, 5 minutes. I may ask people to, well, let's go. If anybody's getting stuck, share your screen, but otherwise I'll leave the score screen up and maybe we'll just have conversation between us of how it's going. So I'll hit begin. And we should be off. I'm going to turn my sound off.
Sarah, one thing that's quite useful is just having a notepad and a pen.
There you go. Low tech continuous improvement. Yeah, not having to remember it by writing it down. Why didn't I think of that one?
we like the low tech solutions.
Oh, I just feel ashamed of myself now. Ooh, right.
Got one on the way, Sarah.
Yeah.
Orders coming in.
Thank you. Back to game. I need to turn that off. That came through really quickly. Okay, tomato, beef, olive, onion. Tomato, beef, olive, onion.
Okay, it looks good. It's coming through a bit faster this time.
Mm.
But we've got less time to get them through.
Oh God,
these are all mediums. Give me a small.
Have you got some at the topping station now?
Yep.
Excellent.
I'm cooking one.
Oh, okay. I'll
much quicker,
myself.
Pesto, meatballs, pepper, mozzarella. Pesto, meatballs.
Hey, what happened? Where'd it go? So my second one, I rolled it, but it doesn't say it's available to send forward.
Oh.
Okay, you can share your screen if you want.
I was going to say, if you want to share your screen, we can have a look and see.
Hey, that's one out the door.
Excellent.
Great stuff.
Another one coming through, Jonathan.
Another one, lovely. That's to cutting now.
So if I go back, I know I've done. Okay, so I could. No, I don't want to do that. I want to. All right.
That's another one out the door.
Oh, yeah. So you don't have any pizza bases made at the moment. So what I would do is you can see they're coming.
Are these the orders?
Barbecue, bacon, beef,
so
cheddar,
you've got your orders at the top. I would make that dough. You can make multiples at the same time. So perhaps make another one. And then when you've done that, go to the next at the bottom right. You're making a small at the same time. Excellent. I like that. What we do now is roll that base. And again, probably one more roll to get it into the green. We hit done. You could roll out the small now.
Oh, it's down there. There was a number down there.
So,
okay.
So it's at this stage that you associate this with the.
Oops, a little more.
So we can hit done.
Okay, so now I go back, and then I can grab. I got one, but so the medium isn't there, even though I rolled it out.
So if you.
But it's here.
Yeah, if you close this, if you hit next again, sorry, I'm gonna.
Okay.
So you can submit from here.
Pepper, chicken, beef.
So what I don't understand is available dough is gone there.
Yeah,
but it says here.
It's the confusion of this. So what this is saying, you have on that dough count, you have one small ball of dough that's been rolled. If you go to the next screen, so you've now rolled 2, which is great. On this one, inventory at the bottom is a number of dough balls that you have. So you've now, you can roll this, and you can now at this stage,
you've got a minute left, people.
If you go to your small, you can associate that piece of dough with it. There we go, and go next.
It's just one. So I've got nothing here, right?
Go next. Olive cheddar.
You've got no more dough balls now, but if you go next, what you look at your inventory.
So is that right here?
So keep rolling.
Keep rolling. Well, I can't get to the roll now because it says please create the dough.
Yeah. So if you look at your top left, you've got all the orders coming in. So I just keep on making that dough. Keep on making the dough. You've got 2 there. How long have we got? 15 seconds. If we go next.
10 seconds.
Roll. If we roll, we'll submit one more to the next stage. We roll this. Select done. Select our small pizza from the top.
Oh, okay. I could do it from there.
Done.
So I could submit it from there. I wouldn't have to go back in.
As just got one come in, but didn't have time to cut it. Fantastic. Do you want to share the scores? Oh, you've got it on there, Ed. Oh, can you make that a little larger? Or is that?
I'll share the screen here and make this a bit bigger. So this should.
Fantastic. So one of the things that's quite noticeable, I think, watching the dough rolling is that one of the benefits of reducing the number of sizes of pizzas, especially if you go to just one, is that then the person on the dough station can just roll dough. They don't have to keep checking the orders. And that's
I did worse this time.
So we got more pizzas out the door.
We did.
In half
overall success. And I think looking through the stages, I mean, there was less orders coming in. It was a shorter game this time. I didn't write down the score that we got last time. Not that the score is a totally relevant thing, but we got more pizzas through. We delivered more. So overall, we were doing well. It really does show up how tricky that dough station is. So,
yeah, I don't understand. How did dough get wasted?
That's a very good point, because we didn't have very much made up.
And dough waste was 6. And I think the last time it was like 1 less than what was used also.
Yes, so
ordinarily, wasn't it last time?
The dough waste is inventory that hasn't been used and passed on to the next station.
Yes.
And the way that the scoring works on the game is that for every defect, whether that's a wrong order or incorrect topping or wasted lump of dough, that actually subtracts from your total score. So the reason we did that was so that if you start to just speed up but you make more errors, you actually kind of lose quite a lot of points through that. So one of the applications of this game is for lean thinking and applying the principles of that improvement methodology, which is all about maximizing value and minimizing waste. So there's a sort of a thread running through the game of, okay, you can't just try to get the biggest score and have a load of defects and a load of wasted dough along the way. So I suspect that's why we've got a lower score on the dough station there, despite the fact that you made more dough and we delivered more pizzas. We've also been a little bit more wasteful as a team. So as a facilitator, I'd be guiding the group at this point to look at what we think the root causes of that might be, and is there anything that we can do to improve against that.
It looks like, looking at the numbers from last time and this time, it looks like dough waste is what I don't use, what doesn't get to me.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's left as effectively it's inventory that sat there that we didn't make into a delivered pizza.
That's right. and you get 10 points for every order successfully made, but you get minus 10 points for every lump of dough wasted, which is why we've ended up with the overall score of a minus 10. The only one where the scoring doesn't quite work properly at the moment is the oven station. So we just got a tweak to do there. That comes up with a slightly spurious score of 26, which should actually be a score of 50 for the oven station there. But
the oven station does something quite interesting, actually, when we look at it. The oven station actually gives us kind of partial scores. We can see if it's slightly overcooked, it starts to reduce the score. So we've probably got a couple of pizzas there that were slightly got a little bit browned and tinged on the edge.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a weighted score. So it's 50, but with weightings for.
Yeah, we've got a little bit more work to do, I think, on the scoring overall with this. But the main principle of the scoreboard is partly to kind of teach people a little bit about visual performance management and how seeing data can help you make improvement decisions, but also to see that actually you can do really well individually in one part of the system. But if there's a bottleneck, or if you're creating a bottleneck through doing that, actually it doesn't work for the team. And that's where the kind of interesting conversations come through. And we can talk about technical improvement stuff, but we can also talk about the relational element and how did we communicate as a team. What was quite interesting was a bit more going on in that realm, was my observation, in terms of people telling each other when a pizza was coming and what to expect. And obviously we were also able to help each other out through the screen sharing and give a bit of advice. Any other, so should we just whiz through the stations again and see, obviously what we would do with a group in this is then to say, well, what do we think happened as a result of the improvements we made? So Ray, order taking, another 100% perfect round score. How was your alphabetized order top and sorting? How did that work for you? I think you're on mute at the moment.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely much easier than it had been. I think I would still love to do a little more reorganization. I think I'd have to go back and actually look at the calls, but I think the calls are grouped differently. They're grouped like meat, cheese, or again, I'd have to go back and look at it, but I think I would still love to kind of further reorganize things, and how that alpha by meat, alpha by cheese, and then alpha by other topping. But no, overall pretty straightforward. Excellent.
And there's a whole kind of world of learning potentially there in terms of workplace optimization and that kind of thing. 5S for those people who are really into their improvement methodology, which again is the kind of stuff that we want to be able to teach people and emerges out of the game. And I would love to do exactly what you said as well, which is to break them into kind of categories. Excellent.
Is there any way of within the game of manipulating what people order? So sort of like, going between, I don't know, 9 and 10, you get half price small pizzas to make sure that all the small pizzas come in at that time.
Yeah,
that's absolutely really good thinking and really good ideas. Yeah.
Promotional campaigns, special offers.
Yeah.
Gamifying what the customers do.
Yeah, nice. I like that. So Eileen, still quite tricky on the dough station, but did it I guess it helped that we reduced some of the variation in orders coming through to you there.
Actually, no, I don't think that helped at all, because I think still I struggled with, I thought I had to go back to the first screen to submit the order, but it sounded like I didn't need to do that. And I think probably was the score also affected when I mixed but didn't roll. So I thought by mixing more up front and then jumping to the roll, I could speed it up, and I don't think that happened. It caused more waste.
Yes, that's right. If you mix the dough and it doesn't get rolled, or if you roll it and it doesn't get submitted, that all then ends up in your inventory pile at that stage at the end of the round as waste. So that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting.
And I wasn't really sure what the numbers meant. So on the first screen, I think small said 2, medium was 4, and large was 6. I wasn't sure, was that inventory or was that, I wasn't sure what that was. Was that time mixing strokes?
Right.
So the numbers,
okay.
I wasn't sure what that was
There's
there.
a bit of learning still around the actual,
Yeah.
around the process within that mini game.
Right. So not understanding the process first until that is fixed. I think that's a huge bottleneck to everything after that.
Yeah.
Although I still think separating it into 2 stations would also help.
Yeah. And from an improvement perspective, then what we might say is, well, actually, this is a tricky process at that point. So maybe as a team, we need to really focus on understanding exactly what the steps are, the optimal way of managing that dough station. As it stands, you know, there's not, we can't change the mechanics of it, if you like, but actually what we can do is for the operator of that particular game, for them to be really clear about exactly what the steps are, like a standard operating procedure for running that part of the system, because that sounds like that's what you need. You kind of need to know what are the steps and in what order, and actually do you do each one at a time. So, you know, single piece flow, pick the dough, roll it, and send it on, and keep doing that. Or do you do batches and roll a whole load of dough and these
I
are
thought that would help, but it didn't.
Excellent.
It's a really interesting point. Jonathan, I think in other games that we do, we quite often find the real tricky stage and get the group to help and get Post-it notes and kind of write out and physically write that process to really help think through. That could be a really good indication and thing to do on that particular.
And it strikes me as the order taking station has got a really, really sort of easy job, really, in comparison to a lot of the other jobs. So is there any way that order taking could communicate in advance to the dough station to give them a heads up about what's coming to with the leisure time that they have?
That's a really interesting one, because that's again, it doesn't require any changes to the settings of the game, does it? It just requires a call out right from the beginning. Okay, small dough, medium dough. Actually, that then helps the person on the dough station that doesn't even necessarily need to look at the tickets at the top.
Yeah.
So a nice innovation there. So Sarah, Andy, Ed, anything to add from the other stations?
I seem to be better at remembering them this time, but yeah, what Andy said before, I mean, I feel totally ashamed of myself that I didn't think, no, maybe I should just write it down. It's just totally ridiculous that I didn't think of that. So yeah.
So we could play one more round, I think, if we've got time for that.
Yeah, just the last thing to add on this one, we talk about the lean and customer value and waste, and we see the waste at the independent stations, but we can't often talk about value and that end quality, and how we can do really good work right up until the last stage. And if we make an error there, then all of the effort that we've done can be destroyed effectively, and we reduce that value to the customer. We haven't had any of that. Everything that we've done correctly, because we haven't had any complaint calls. If we have a good pizza going all the way through, but at the delivery stage, we put the wrong label and give that good pizza to the wrong customer, then effectively that would generate a complaint call and say, all that great work that you did ended up with nothing, and it becomes a negative score. So we haven't made any of those errors. So that was really good. And I think we didn't have any complaint calls in the first round as well. No.
Excellent.
Great. I will come
I've started the process of creating a third round for our game. This will be R3, password R3. It's not launched yet. I've replicated the settings that we had last time. So toppings and sauces are sorted alphabetically. We've taken out anchovies, jalapenos, and prawns. I think it was that we found. Was it pineapple as well? Or I can't remember.
Pineapple as well.
Pineapple should always go.
Well. Pineapple is just wrong.
An abomination on a pizza. So anything else? Do we want to change anything else? Did we take away any of the toppings last time? I don't. Sauces rather. I don't think we did we? So we're going for small and medium pizzas still.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going for the same set of sauces and toppings, both sorted alphabetically. Are we happy with the speed of orders and the speed of baking?
Yeah.
We're happy with
I
those
say
things.
that I have nothing
rolling
to do with
list.
orders or baking, so I'm just agreeing to something I have nothing to do with.
Eileen, what
Less
do you
rolling.
think?
Less rolling.
Yep.
That
So
seemed
we're
to
going-
take a while.
Yep. So we're going with the small and the medium-sized pizza bases still?
Are you asking me individually? I'd say one. Size. Pick one size.
Which one should we go for?
Small, so we can get some
Mini
of these through.
pizzas.
Yeah, we're going to be a small pizza making company.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. You just pop in one pizza per
Let's get
person.
just a few of them through.
Excellent. And of course, the other innovation that we're introducing in this round is, as you suggested, the team communication element. So Ray's going to call out those pizzas as they're coming through. Actually, it won't make any difference
Won't
now
make any difference because they're all small.
They're all going to be small.
Yeah.
So we're good with that. Okay, I've set up those settings for this round. I'll do another 5-minute one. So I've hit start, so you should be able to join the game. Ed, I'll continue to host if you want to hop onto. He's there already.
Yeah, I'll do the
Eileen's the
delivery. I'm feeling the pressure now because I think we're going to have a lot more come through.
I don't know. If I suck at this one, I don't know.
So just waiting for Sarah on the toppings, I think. There we go. Fantastic.
Sorry, I
Everybody
was too slow there, wasn't I?
My hands are sweating.
okay.
That
This is the
doesn't
big
sound
one.
good in a food preparation environment.
I will hit the now.
I got to turn my sound off, right? Okay.
All right, first one.
Okay, so we've got one through already. What I'll do while this is running is I will just share the score screen for those who are watching the video to see how this is panning out. Okay, excellent. So they're coming through already. We've got the dough. That dough making looks to be simpler already.
Beef ham. Pepper beef ham.
So we've got two lots of dough made, one used, one of the 2 orders through now. I think those should be coming through to toppings.
Pizza going into the oven.
Ham bacon.
Yeah, I think my scoreboard is lagging a little bit behind the gameplay.
I do have problems with clicking on the dough. It doesn't seem to register.
What's that, when you're picking your dough up?
When I'm picking my dough up,
toppings
it's sometimes a little bit.
Any come through to you yet, Ed, on your delivery station?
There is one just gone out the door.
Excellent.
Another one's going in the oven.
Beef ham.
Okay, look, I can see the scoreboard's updated. We've got one shipped correct order.
Beef ham.
Excellent. So just over 3 minutes left on this round. Let's see if we can beat our 4 pizzas correctly shipped from the last round.
Garlic and onion.
Another one in the oven.
How am I getting the waste? Is it because I'm doing it too early? I know I'm going to get a small.
At the minute, you've got 5 lots of dough made, 5 used, 4 orders made. So have you submitted all 5 of those? May have rolled. Yes, fantastic.
Okay.
The other way of accumulating a bit of dough waste is you roll the piece to the incorrect size as well.
Okay.
So that will sometimes happen. Fantastic. So we already have 3 pizzas correct and out the door.
This is looking
and
very good.
Halfway through. So we are looking on the curve to beating our best from the last round at this rate.
5th pizza in the oven.
Oh,
one more out the door.
That's 4 out the door. The score of 14. Only a couple of defects so far Oh, one defect in the processor. There's one wrong order at the minute that's been passed through.
Yep, that one's on me.
Oh, Ray, you've dropped your 100% record from.
I have indeed, yeah.
It's coming towards the end of his shift. He's getting tired.
That's right. It's understandable.
Picking up the dough is really difficult.
Okay, fantastic. We've already got 5 orders correct and out the door. Very impressive this round. And Sarah, you're struggling with collecting the dough by the sounds of it from the bottom.
Yeah, just technically picking it up. Actually, just picking it up doesn't seem to work very well.
And I think we are probably all using laptops or something similar with a mouse. We didn't ask about that at the beginning. Obviously, you can use tablets and touch screens pretty effectively for this. Actually, it is. If anything, it's slightly easier to do the dough cutting with a touch screen.
Come on.
Okay, 5 out the door, 5 correct. We've got a minute left. Scoreboard might be lagging.
Slicing one. Another one out the door.
Fantastic.
So I didn't realize until this round that we can actually see the stats in real time as well.
Yes, that's right. You can click at any point during the round. You can click on the scoreboard icon, which is in the kind of the bar at the top there. And 6 orders out the door. Fantastic. So at least a 50% improvement with 30 seconds left. Can we get a couple more out?
I've got one more just coming out of the oven.
Excellent.
Okay, cut it in time, Ed.
Pressure on the cutting.
20 seconds left. And we're looking pretty profitable so far. And a higher overall score already than we had in either of the previous rounds.
Right, out the door. There we go.
Fantastic. And 7 shipped, 7 correct. No orders missed, no complaints calls. That's it. Well done, everyone. Okay, so I think I'm still sharing my screen, aren't I? Well, it just calculates the final scores. So there we go. 7 pizzas out of 11 calls taken. So we ended up with a few still in the system at the end there, but a big improvement on our previous rounds. And obviously, if you were playing this in a team, there'd be lots of opportunities at this point to reflect on what we thought had made those improvements. With this, just like with many of the face-to-face games we play around improvement, there is an element of people get better at the task. Certainly the trickier ones, the dough stage, the toppings, the delivery station are probably slightly trickier than the oven one, I think. But that one gets quite interesting when you speed up the conveyor belt. So there's quite interesting dynamics that emerge as you change different things in the game over time. But Ray, it seemed to go relatively well again for you, just the one wrong order.
Yeah, I'd need to go back and look at it. I think it was either that I didn't check the dough size at all because I just assumed, well, it's one size, I don't need to check it. Either that, or I may have accidentally left a topping off. I'd have to go back. I would be fascinated to go back and look at the forensics on it.
Well, we'll have the recording, of course, so we could do that. Excellent. Eileen, how was it this time? Because it's not been easy on that dough station.
No, it has not been. But I think realizing that I could submit the order from the second screen helped me a lot. And I think the dough waste was because I think I started making the dough before the order came in because I knew the next one was going to be a small.
Yes.
So I started mixing it ahead of time.
That's right.
And I think it was ready before it should have been.
Yeah.
Is there a time in which the dough wastes, in which it spoils then? It's a sort of time limit on the dough.
Yeah, I started mixing it before the order came in on a couple of them.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a balance there, isn't there, between, but a massive improvement in the number of orders made on that station from the previous 2 rounds. So that's definitely some of those changes we've made have definitely helped there. I think it would have been interesting to see if we hadn't reduced the pizza sizes and we'd used the other improvement that we talked about with Ray calling out the orders, whether that would have also made things easier. It's a different strategy that another team might have taken. So, that's quite nice that these things can play out quite differently. Sarah, you were struggling with aspects of the toppings this time, but you still got 8 made and 8 correct.
Yeah, it's the game interface rather than the actual task.
Right.
It just won't pick up. I have to click on it about a dozen times to get it to pick up the
that's
dough.
interesting. Well,
I'm using a tracker pad. That might have something to do with it, but it might, yeah. So I'm on a tracker pad on a laptop.
Yeah. Okay. We've not come across that before, I don't think, have we, Andy? But we'll have to look into that one.
It might have been better if I'd have been using a proper mouse. Who knows? Or a touch screen.
I mean, we've even played with this on a mobile phone. It can work. It's certainly the order taking and the topping stations can get a bit tricky unless you're very accurate on there. But Andy, Ed, anything to report back from your experience on that final round?
Well, certainly the last one that came through was fairly close to the end, and I was getting the cutting done. But actually, I think these 2 stations are relatively, at the moment, fairly slow pace. So I had a nice gap to gather my thoughts before cutting the next pizza.
And the oven at that speed is the easiest of the lot. There's not an awful lot to do, and it's very difficult to get it wrong.
We should have speeded it up for you, Andy, just to give you a bit of a challenge. And obviously, you can see on the screen here, there's a button at the bottom here where you can download this scorecard for each round. So again, it's one of those things that could be an improvement in itself. After a couple of rounds, the team might say, oh well, we didn't keep the data from the first round, so it's difficult for us to compare the performance. And you go, okay, well, we need to remember at the end of the round for somebody to download the report, and then obviously you can compare performance between rounds. We're working on our memory of it. I'm pretty sure we didn't get an overall score of any higher than 328 in the previous rounds, but that just downloads an image capture of the scorecard screen. So I'll stop sharing at this point because I know we're coming to the end of our time slot, aren't we, Sarah? But I guess it was just an opportunity to, well, first of all, to thank you all massively for playing the game with us. We've pretty much exclusively only played it with people in the healthcare industry so far. So it would be, in terms of feedback, something that would be interesting would be just to hear from Sarah, Eileen and Ray about whether this is something you feel that could be played in other industries, but also anything else that you'd like to kind of tell us before we round off about the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that you've abstracted it and made it pizza making, I mean, that's certainly my experience of using sort of games in the past, that if you actually sort of make it accurate, make it a simulation of whatever it is that the people are doing, all you get is people complaining about it. It's not what I do, this isn't accurate, and so on. So that abstraction, and I think it is, as a result, very widely applicable, because all of those sort of general principles of improvement are all there, aren't they? As you say, decreasing diversity of what you offer, communication, and so on. It's applicable across anything, really.
Yeah, that's certainly what we were trying to achieve. Eileen, you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting about your kind of background and some similar kind of work that you do, by the sounds of it, with in your consulting role. What were your reflections?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm still trying to figure out in my own mind too, our discussion afterward about how to make the improvements, and we talked about reducing complexity, etc., should prompt people to think, okay, in my real role, what I'm doing, are there complexities that we need to talk about? It might be that, I've already told you about this complexity and you've done nothing about it, but to get people to think about those solutions in that context without distracting them with their real, like you said, this wouldn't work for a pizza making company because they'd be too distracted by that. But it gets them to think in terms of, all right, what I've just learned here, how do I apply that solutioning or problem solving to a situation that we have in our current environment?
Absolutely. I think that's really what we're aiming for, in the simplest sense, problem solving at work, and how you can use some of the learning from this game to influence what you do in your daily role, and it can be from something really small to something quite big and complex. But we certainly see a lot of the things that arise in this game arising in real life in healthcare workflows and processes and teams. Ray, what were your reflections overall on the game?
Just very briefly, and then unfortunately I have to drop due to another commitment. Yeah, this was tremendous. The context I was thinking about this is I do leader development for scouting programs, and getting them to think about continuous improvement is sometimes a real challenge. And I think this is definitely something that I would see utility on it. And I definitely, once I'm in the process of moving between organizations, but once I finish that move, I definitely want to reach out to you all, because I see some real potential in this for that organization.
Oh, fantastic.
So with that in mind, what's the offer? So do you offer this game out to other people? Are you facilitators, or do you offer facilitation training, or
well, my current role and I guess the game development has been done through my current role at Kingston Hospital, which is an NHS hospital in southwest London. Ed's at a hospital just across the other side of southwest London at St George's. And what we're doing with Andy and the team at Focus at the minute is just finalising the arrangements for sort of taking the game to market, really. And we, within the NHS, we want to explore the possibility of how they might want to support and potentially fund that. But I guess right now the game is free to download from to access from the website in its current version. So at the moment anybody can access it, and then it will be available for purchase for individuals or organizations to use. And we hope to use the feedback from these sessions to develop it further. I think, there's a few themes that have come up today that we've heard a number of times now, and some things that we would really like to do in the next iteration, just to increase the possibilities of how you can play with this.
I just spotted the note from our Ray's just left. I was just going to say farewell. I just spotted that note. Sarah, you're on mute.
We'll see the thank you in the recording. It's fine. So yes. So do you offer kind of facilitation kind of materials to go with it?
Yeah, I mean, the intention is that it would be standalone, so you wouldn't have to rely on paying for train the trainer. So there'd be sort of support materials, facilitator guide. But the assumption is that the people using this will be people like Jonathan and Ed, who understood the underlying principles and what they were trying to teach. So, they wouldn't have to learn that. All they'd need to understand is the mechanics of the game. How that links in with the mechanics of the game and what's possible. And actually, I mean, something like this that was recorded, I think would be a really useful resource for people who wanted to use the game, because they could actually have a look at a real game being facilitated by real people. So I suspect that it'd be something like this in a condensed form that would sit on the website, just to show people how it can be used.
Yeah, we quite deliberately didn't want to kind of wrap a training manual around it, because the understanding that different organizations will have their own way of doing their training. And this was really built to slot in. There will be some guidance and facilitation guidance that says you think about using it in this particular way. Some of the things. So the conversation we've had here, actually, what does it pull out? It pulls out communication. You could talk about that. You could talk about value and waste in different ways, and that's expressed in this pizza game in this way, just to give some guidance. But that will go alongside the game itself.
Thanks.
Well, enjoy whatever's left of your day.
Yes.
I guess Eileen's got more time to recover than we have.
I do, yeah. It's time for lunch. And making that pizza now makes me want to have a pizza. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much, and hope to speak to you all again soon.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Nice to meet you, Eileen.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.